Welcome to More Than Management, your go-to podcast for all things talent management. In each episode, we talk with masterminds behind some of the biggest names in music, sports, fashion, and television. We learn the art of brand building, high-stake negotiations, and maintaining a celebrity public image. I'm your host, Kindest, and you're invited to the conversation. Welcome back to More Than Management. I am your host, Kindest, and today we have an exciting guest, someone very close to my heart. She's taught me a lot over the many, many years that I've known her. Basically, grew up with you. Mm-hmm. We have Becky Motumo-Molete. She is an amazing manager in sports management, and she's going to take us through her journey with taking care of Carol Tshabalala as well as Caster Semenya.
Hi.
Woo, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to speak to you. So just for everyone who doesn't know, you and I have known each other for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Literally, my best friend in primary school is Becky's little sister.
Yes.
So basically, I grew up in the Motumo household, mm-hmm. and equally Hannah grew up at my house. So mm-hmm. I know you for a very long time. You've taught me a lot, and I was reliving the stories the other day. I'm like, Becky, I remember I didn't understand popularity until I met you. Becky was like a proper superstar in high school. I was in primary school at the time, and mm-hmm. she was in high school, and I used to look at her and admire you and watch you get ready in your local jeans, and I'd be like, one day.
Yeah, look at you now. Hey, look at you now.
We've come 360.
It's beautiful to see.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're both parents now.
Yes, we're both parents. I'm not married. So much has changed. Yeah. You also forgot to mention that I'm like your mom's bestie.
That too.
Yeah, because that's important.
It's a complicated dynamic.
It is.
Because, but it's layered. Our relationship is very layered.
Right.
So you're also my mom's bestie.
Yes.
You guys spend a lot of time together. So I at our home a lot.
Yes.
You know. So over the years, I get free expert advice.
Yes,
I love it for myself.
And look at you now.
So you grew up in a very colorful home.
Yes.
Creative.
Very much a creative family, you would know. In a very musical family. So I think, growing up, we were pretty much almost groomed to go into that space. So television, anything to do with television, music, the entertainment industry as a whole. And I guess that's always been something I was very passionate about. My dad was a musician, Snyaka, may his soul rest in peace.
Yes.
Really, really phenomenal. So no, we're not new to, the entertainment scene.
Yeah.
And I think, just over the years, I've also been able to dabble in and out of entertainment. And then, of course, eventually landing up in sports, which has just been quite a journey.
Yes, absolutely. So you say your dad was the late Snyaka, and then your mom, Shashi, and then from that you were in music videos. You
yes.
are you are really...
Why did I know that you were going here? I knew you were going here.
You're in music videos for the late Brenda Fassie. You've been in several, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
How was that? Like being on set as a young girl? What did that contribute to who you are today? Watching the machine sort of come together, because when you're in a music video, you don't get there when they call action. Mm-hmm. You get there when it's like all the behind the scenes. It's a hurry up and wait situation. So you learned that from a very young age. How was that for you?
I mean, amazing. I think I had you said it perfectly, very colorful upbringing. And I think also just very privileged, to have spent time with, such legends. You speak about Brenda Fassie, everybody knows, the queen she was, the queen of pop, truly the best to ever do it. And so to grow up in a space where because I lived with her at some point.
Oh, wow.
So I think there were a couple of kids whose parents were musicians. And I think Chico's kids as well, Latoya Machene as well, was Blondie's daughters. We kind of all grew up pretty close together. It was a very close-knit community. And Brenda at the time stayed in Vlehof.
Okay.
And what a lot of people don't know is that my mom was actually a backup artist for Brenda as well. My mom is an ex-pageant girl, turn muso as well. So I think that's why we were pretty much like in each other's space all the time. But I think, Brenda specifically was very passionate about us getting into the space. Whereas with Snyaka, it it wasn't a must. You know what I mean? He was pretty happy for me to choose a completely different direction. And so was my mom wanted me to do pageants, but Brenda was like, you're going to be the next star. You're going to be the next me. So, you know, there's a lot of like amazing stories. Like I remember how she had this glass table in her lounge and this like really fluffy, you know, the nice white fluffy carpet. And she'd come home at like 4 a.m. in the morning. Yes, very important. And she'd come home at like 4 a.m. in the morning, obviously from a show or concert or, you know. And Bongani and I would get woken up in the morning, you know, like, Becky, Bongani, get up, you know, come, you must perform. And she was a big Shaka Khan fan. Yeah. And so she'd make us stand on that table and hand us carrots from the fridge. So we obviously use those as mics.
This is in the morning.
We would perform. We'd perform for her. It was just really nice, you know, like a really laid back type of environment where you are, you know, encouraged and pushed, you know, to truly come out of your shell. So I think one of the things that I learned up front is definitely confidence. Yes. You know, I grew up as a very confident young girl who's never been, you know, too worried about my differences. You know what I mean? Just pretty much like, you know, this is who I am and I'm going out into the world pretty much fearless. And the world will, you know, will meet me where I'm at, you know, and as I present myself. Yeah.
So you in this whole, you grew up in this community, in this home. It's very colorful, but it's protected, right? Then you go out into the real world. Have you ever felt that a lot of people wanted to, any people wanted to sort of be your friend or be in your space because of who you knew or who you were exposed to?
Yeah, always. And I think that also just kind of gives you unnecessary pressure and anxiety. And I think I say to a lot of people, like, I have such major social anxiety. You know, I walk into a place and I don't really want to get noticed. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to go by, like, unnoticed and, you know, kind of do my thing. Never really happens. And I just remember, like, even just being in high school, people, you know who you are. They know who your parents are. And the expectation is that you will act accordingly. And I'm completely different. Like, I'm very laid back. You know me. Yeah, I'm a girl's girl. I'm the girl next door. So I think there was quite a lot of pressure in terms of that, and a lot of, you know, always trying to prove to people that you're not what they think you are. You know what I mean? So no, I'm not the snobby little girl. I'm not stuck up. No, I don't just date bus mang mang. You know what I mean?
I can blend into this conversation.
I can blend in, yeah.
It doesn't have to be about those people or,
exactly.
or where I came from, where I grew up. You know, so what values would you say, like, that you learned from your mom, from being in an environment of stardom, from your overall environment? Like, what values do you think you have that you're taking into today?
For sure. I think specifically from my mom and my gran, who played a very big role in my life as well, it's humility. You know, more than anything, it's humility. And I think my gran, one of the things that really stood out to me was she wanted me to be more. So you will be more than your looks. You will be more than, you know, your outer appearance. It's always going to be about, you know, what you can offer that's on the inside. And people will always remember that. And that's a lot easier to sustain, which is incredible. It's such a good lesson to learn because it then pushes you, you know, to discover new things about yourself that you're truly good at. I mean, people don't know I am fully trained in classical piano. So
really? I didn't know that. You've never played for us before.
I should. I played for my kids the other day. They were like, what?
Mom, you're really cool.
Yeah. They're like, you could do that. I was like, yeah.
That's
so
incredible.
Fully trained in classical music. You know, I was really, really great, I think, at speech and drama as well in school. And then sports has always been my thing. I have always been extremely passionate about, you know, sports and particularly participating in sports. I was a brilliant netball player, still am. I was a pretty quick athlete. They used to call me Zola Bad because I used to run barefoot.
Really?
Those who know.
This is in high school?
In primary and high school.
That
so throughout, I've always just been... I mean, I was one of those parents, like my mom used to drive her crazy because my schedule for someone that is a scholar was just a little too much. You know, you're doing too much when you're at school until 7 p.m.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
When do you do your homework? When do you go to extra lessons?
In between.
In between all of that, you've got a social calendar of notes.
And it wasn't just that. It wasn't just sports. It was culturals as well. Like, you know, cheerleading, drum majorettes, whatever it is, I would do it. Shot put, javelin, you name it, that was me.
So you're a mom, right?
Yeah.
And you are very, like you're saying, you are very sporty and athletic and fit, Is there any of those traditions that you're taking into your motherhood where you're just like, I learned this when I was younger and I'm instilling this in you guys and this is what you're doing? You are having a social calendar. You're busy from 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., weekends, we're doing activities. Are you that type of mom? Is that the type of...
I think, yes, to a certain extent, but I have allowed my kids to guide me in terms of, what it is that they are interested in doing. With my son, I have a brilliant football player on my hands. Yes, God. I'm very excited about that. I call him my live-footed wonder, is Jay. He is 11 going on 12. So it's really nice that we are able to experience this thing that we're both passionate about together. So I'm a soccer mom. I'm on the pitch. I'm screaming the loudest.
Really?
I'm chatting to coaches. I'm fully involved. I, already am kind of planning, what his future is going to look like.
You're managing him.
I'm managing him already.
Are you his manager?
Not officially,
but
unofficially.
Are you in the future? Are you his manager?
100%.
100%.
Yeah, because he's going to
all
be a
the
big
work that
deal.
you're doing now is in preparation for your future. For
I am.
SJ.
I'm laying the foundation. He's going to be the next biggest thing. I know all moms say that, but in my case, it's true.
Okay.
I'll invite you to a game.
Please do.
Yeah,
Please
I'll
do.
invite you to a game.
So you're looking at yourself, your younger self, or rather you're 13, and or you're in your teenagers, and you imagine in your future.
Yeah.
Is it a sports manager?
No, it's not actually. Crazy enough, it was music. It was music. I was going to be like the biggest thing, and I was really passionate about that as well. I know how to arrange music. I write, and I used to write. But I think for me, the course changed when, my dad had some difficulties, I think, with drugs, in the space. And I think it was a really difficult time for us as a family to witness that. But I think more than anything, it just opened my eyes to the dark side of entertainment. And that wasn't, a really fun experience. And so the conversation started changing actually pre-matric, where I started... With self and parents. Okay. Yeah, and I think it was at that point that we were chatting and it was just like, why not go into another space? Why not actually pursue business? And my mom was like, you're smart enough. You can definitely do that. And I was like a little bit sad though, because it kind of felt like I was giving up on a dream. But then I quickly came to the realization that if I go into business, I can always revisit that creative side of me. And hence, when I was on Power FM, that was me doing a little bit of that. I mean, I was still essentially managing Caster at the time and Carol. But just to appeal to that creative side of me, I then decided to do radio, which is something I tend to do from time to time. So if I feel like it, I'll do a bit of TV, do a little bit of, just as a creative outlet, which is so important, I think, for true creatives.
Yeah, absolutely. Before becoming a sports manager and before Caster, Carol, you were in marketing. Your marketing, and that obviously then allowed you, honed your skills in just the creative outlet like you're talking about, but also just contributed to who you are today. Tell us about your journey in marketing. Like, where did that come from? Where did you start? And how did it end or evolve?
So, very packed a CV, so to speak, or profile, so to speak. But I started off working for a telecoms company, Cell C. Can I say?
I remember that.
You remember that?
I remember that.
I was in a call center.
Yes, and Cell C, it was new. It was brand spanking new. Yes, and it was in Sandton, and I remember that. That was a dream job, girl.
It was a dream job. So that was pretty cool, like working in a call center. I think, very interesting stories there as well. But I think it was a really good start for me. I moved from there into, I think it was aviation, where I worked as a ground hostess. at Execujet. That was a very short stint.
Okay.
I moved from there and went into the production space. So I worked with Hooper Productions, and we used to produce a show called Car Talk, which was a really, really awesome show for car enthusiasts. I then moved from there into advertising.
Okay.
I was, lucky enough to actually meet a gentleman who is someone that I actually truly respect, Becky Motumo-Molete, who gave me an opportunity. You know, Becky
was my client.
I love him to bits.
He's
Isn't
literally
he the
been
best?
my client at two of his when he's been headed up his role as marketing. He's been my
Yes.
client twice. That is incredible. Hi, Bo.
Yeah.
Okay, small world.
He is just so awesome. One of the first people that actually gave me, a chance, to learn on the job, to grow on the job, which was just really phenomenal. I never forget it. Thank you, Kaibe. And then I moved from there into SA Tourism, and I spent quite a lot of time there. Loved my 7 years at SA Tourism. I always say to people, it's almost like you're doing your time because you're working for the country. It's for the benefit of our people.
Yes.
For every tourist that comes into SA, a job is created. So, you're doing really purposeful work. And I think I really enjoyed that. I spent a lot of time living out of a suitcase pretty much, because it's very, you're just very unpredictable. You never know where you're going to be and when. So I really enjoyed that. And I was there for 7 years. And I think it was at that point that I met Carol.
Yes.
And she had come over with a proposal because there was a tennis a project that she had wanted to do. And, that initial meeting was really awesome. Like, we hit it off. We realized we had quite a lot in common. And I'd said to her, I'm actually thinking of, changing course a little bit. Like, I've been here for 7 years. It's been absolutely incredible. I've learned so much. And I feel like it's time for a new challenge. Okay. And she said, well, I'm looking for a manager. Would you consider doing that? And I said, well, sports, I've never really done that before. And then I said to her, well, mind you, I've never really been the kind of person that shies away from a challenge. So I initially then, left SA Tourism to actually work with Carol.
That is 2014.
2014.
So 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
And you guys have been together for 10 years.
Yep.
What is your secret? What is your secret to retention? Like, how do you keep your talent?
I think the most important thing that a lot of managers sometimes overlook is that as much as we're here for the money, it's so important to make sure that you're there for the person. When you believe in somebody and you are working with them, there has to be moments where you are able to turn away a deal that will put cash into your pocket, yes. But if it's something that's not good for them, you've got to be able to, be thoughtful and just a little bit more considerate, So I think for me, what has truly made it easier is that I work with such incredible women. Both of them are absolutely phenomenal. And so there is a sense of family, and initially it is. It's like you become a sister. You're looking out for, for their best interest from a business perspective, which is so important. And for somebody to entrust you with such a major responsibility, it's only natural that, you develop a deeper type of relationship and bond, so I think that's been my secret, is just to put the people first before the money.
Absolutely. Yes. And what would you say is the one thing that you've learned about yourself moving from being a marketing manager to a brand manager?
I think I've definitely learned that I adapt quite easily. Okay. I think I've learned that I'm actually I've always known that I was strong, but I have learned, just how resilient I truly am. It's very difficult going into a space that, you know very little about. It can be quite a daunting task at first, because you sit there and you go, oh my goodness, imposter syndrome. Yeah. You sit there and you go, like, who am I to represent these big people? I mean, when Caster gave me a call to say, I want you to be my manager, I didn't go and seek her. Yeah. That for me was such a major moment.
Please tell me everything. So, ring.
Yeah.
Caster calls you, hello.
Yes.
You pick up the phone, hello. Becky, hello.
Yes, Carol says to me first, she goes, listen, Caster wants you, to start working with her. And I'm like, Caster who? She's like, Caster Semenya.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, pinch me. And the first, because she had told me about it like 2 weeks before Caster actually eventually called, because she was doing quite a couple of races at the time. I think it might have been, I can't remember. She might have been running in the Diamond League.
Yeah.
But yeah, the call took about two weeks. Then one day, random day, not expecting this call because I've been waiting now for 2 weeks. She gives me a call and I answer and she's like, hello, deep voice. And I'm like, oh my God, it's her. And I'm like, hi, Caster. She's like, hey, I got your numbers from Carol. I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I really, like the work that you guys are doing together. I'm looking for a dynamic young, female who is strong, who can take on my brand as well. And I just think, you'd be the right person to do it. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And of course I said, absolutely. And I think the first thing that we needed to do was to meet in person, which we did. And I guess the chemistry was really good, even from the minute that we met. She is a Mopedi from Betty girl from how can I forget where Caster's from?
Limpopo.
Oh my goodness, it's in the book.
From Limpopo.
She's from Limpopo, but
Yeah.
I wanted to give you the area specifically. Komulech.
Yes, we have it there. Yes.
There were a lot of things that we had in common. I think even just in terms of our upbringing, I am a Soweto girl through and through, and Lena, she's from the village. So I think both coming from humble beginnings, it definitely did kind of help. And I think the same applies with Carol as well.
Yeah.
Is that in terms of, how we think very similar. It really just kind of felt like a match made in heaven. But of course I knew that I've got quite a tall task ahead of me. Here's this person, she is larger than life. What does this mean? What is it going to look like? What's the first thing I'm going to do? It was daunting.
What does day one look like?
What does
City
day
action
one
once
look
you've signed
like?
on the dotted line.
Yeah.
What does it actually mean?
Right.
To manage Caster Semenya.
Because you know that it's not just about phone calls, right?
No, it's not.
just
You're not an agent.
I'm not a, yeah.
No, you're not an agent. You're not a receptionist. You're not a PA.
I'm not a PA.
You are.
I don't just
Caster
manage
Semenya's
calendars.
manager. Yes, absolutely. So Caster signs on the dotted line and Becky Motumo is Caster Semenya's manager. What does that look like? What does the first year look like for you guys? What's happening? Where's your mindset? Where's your mind? What are you learning also? Like what's
Yeah.
happening in that first year?
Oh my goodness. So when they go action, the first thing that changes, she goes, okay, so on social media, I'm putting your details up there. So that was the first thing that happened. So I do find that the first 3 to 4 months of the job were pretty much what I said I wasn't about a minute ago.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of phone calls. It's a lot of, we'd like to book her for this. And, is she available? So it was a lot of that. And I think for me, those first 4 months were quite important because it's then where I realized that this is not how I want to experience this job.
Yeah.
Right? I want so much more. I want to, start thinking about like, what are some of the things that we can do, to take her to the next level. And especially because she was already there, so that is quite scary in itself. So I would say the first year I definitely did a little bit of, not even a little bit, but a lot of learning and just kind of sitting back and, going to meetings with her, shadowing her, that kind of thing. Did that for about a year. And then I think in year 2, that's pretty much when I actually started to do some of the substantial and important work that, we now know we've been able to achieve. I think it was very important to be able to just sit back and actually assess the space that I'm going into because there are so many dynamics. And I think one of the things that doesn't help is the fact that sports is still very much a male-dominated industry.
Yes, absolutely.
So you go in there and you don't really know anybody. So it's honestly about also just trying to make sure that you create those connections and you establish those relationships because at this point people don't know you as a manager.
So you come in, you're fairly new. People mustn't see you sweat though. Who's the kindest person to you? Who gives you that helping hand that made you feel like
Caster without a doubt. And it's weird that I would say that, but can you imagine what it's like to manage somebody of that magnitude And they are so understanding of the fact that you are in your learning process. So a lot of the times I'd panic and I'd go, I want to get you this and I want to get you this deal and I want to get you that deal. And she's going, relax. We're not in a hurry here.
It's not a race.
Right? I believe you and I believe in you, and which is the reason why I've actually reached out to you. I don't want you to do too much. She said, I just want you to take your time and just, grow into it. Because we know that the outcome is going to be absolutely amazing. But let's not be the kind of people that chase money. Let's not be the kind of people that want to have our faces everywhere. So I really did find that to be so reassuring. Because then when you are feeling like, am I good enough? And the person that you're worried about is saying, you are good enough. It's unbelievable. And not only that, she's also, bringing you into these meetings. So now suddenly you are sitting like in boardrooms and you're chatting to the Nike execs and you're chatting to, it was a lot and a lot very quickly. But, you fake it until you make it.
You fake it till no one must see you sweat. Must never be like
yes.
that. So what would be like in those boardrooms? I mean, now you're in big boardrooms, you're not new to the boardroom, but like this is you're holding the conversation. Everybody's looking to you for the vision, What would be the biggest lesson that you would say you've learned in rooms like that, like a big takeout for you?
Is to trust yourself, and to have trust in your abilities as well. I think that when you're sitting in a room full of people, you need to already understand going into that room that you bring and you hold something very special that is unique to you and only you. And so it is very important, I think, yes, to listen and, to learn and to grow, but it's also very important to be assertive. Yeah. It's also very important for you to make a contribution and believe that the contribution that you're making is one that's actually quite valuable. And so, just having that kind of courage and confidence to speak out. If an idea is a bad idea, so what? It's a bad idea, but it's an attempt. And I think we actually need to start thinking like that, as opposed to saying, I don't want to talk about this, or I don't want to suggest this because it's probably a dumb idea. Do it.
Trust yourself. Being an international superstar is so crazy. Like you're running on tracks all over the world and court cases globally as well. Like recently, you guys were in Switzerland. What's happening with the court case? Give me an update, please.
So where we are now, and I think there's been a lot of confusion as well, because obviously last year there was a case that we had won. We had won, the fact that Caster's human rights had been violated.
Yeah.
So that was the win, but she had not won her right to compete. Oh. Because a lot of people were excited and they were like, oh, does this mean we'll see her back on the track again? And the answer is no. And even now, we're not really sure what the outcome is going to be. I mean, I think the natural progression for an athlete usually, especially one that's been running middle distance, would be that eventually as they get older, they would actually go into the longer marathons. And with Caster's ban, it really has just been quite tragic because they've pretty much cut that process in half, But where we are now, we were there on the 15th of May. I actually just want to make sure that I get the wording correct, but we're at the Grand Chamber of the European Court of Human Rights. So ECHR.
This is now recently. This is now
on the 15th of May. So last month. What are we in now? Is this? Yeah, May.
Last month.
Yes, it was last month. So the case was referred by the Swiss government against the July 2023 judgment. So that's where we are now. It is quite a hectic process because every time we are in court, it means that we need to raise funds. It's not really something that we can fund. And you can imagine how expensive it is to go up against, first world countries.
Yes, absolutely.
It really is. But I think we've been truly blessed. There have been corporates that have come to our aid, politicians, not going to mention who, but, that have just been really instrumental in assisting us in terms of raising the funds for Caster to be able to continue to fight her case. And a lot of people ask us why continue. And, the answer is very easy, which is that we're doing this for the future of athletics. There are going to be many African and Asian talented individuals who, might be, facing similar a similar condition, so to speak. And, we just want to make sure that it's fair and that, these kids are actually able to run. So we're not just doing it for us. We're not doing it so that Caster can get back on the track. We're actually doing it for the future of sports, because this is something that we truly believe in. Caster is really passionate about this. And you can imagine how much it actually takes out of someone to keep going in and out of court. It takes a lot, but it's a cause that she's committed to. And I think we're making good headway. We're really, really fortunate to be, blessed also with the likes of Norton Rose, Fulbright, Gregory Knott, who has been at the helm of this, since the beginning of time. I mean, he pretty much raised Caster, in this cause and in this fight. And we're just really blessed that we've had people like that who continue to give of themselves, and they don't actually charge us. Norton Rose Fulbright works pro bono, and they have been over the years, but, whoever it is that they work within market, unfortunately, they need to be compensated. So that's why every single time it requires for us to actually, go and raise funds, which means for me as a manager, I need to stop what I'm doing,
yes,
the regular day to day. And then, there are times, where that is my sole focus.
So you are, you come from a marketing background, marketing exec. You are now a sports manager, Carol Tshabalala's manager, Caster Semenya's manager. Everything is going great. And in 2011, the IAF establishes a rule.
Yeah.
That changes everything for you.
Absolutely.
So this has gone from everything moving the way it should be, right, to a complete twist in your career and basically the value that you bring as a manager. Tell us about that.
I mean, a very difficult, I think, phase for me personally as a manager and as somebody that I think has always been able to provide support, even just beyond business, even just on a friendship level. With Caster, it was very difficult for me to, I think, witness what was going on with her. She handled it like a pro. I think everybody, till today actually speaks about how graceful she's been. But it was very difficult, I think, for me, because you then start to think, what are the additional ways in which we can actually still stay afloat, still make an impact, still be able to do the work that we do, and I think that was a very scary conversation to have with her, because, you also just don't want to feel, make your talent feel like you don't have a plan.
Yeah. But I mean, you could not have planned for something like this.
You couldn't have planned for it.
This is a challenge that is beyond any manager's reasonable expectation, because I mean, when we do sort of account for the lows, but we don't account for the world coming against you.
Yes.
We don't account for you standing in court. And what does that actually mean? At this point, she's done nothing wrong.
Absolutely.
And you have to defend someone who has not done anything wrong. What does that do to the business? Like, how did that affect your contracts? How did that affect your emails coming in? It's do you have to explain yourself when you enter a room now? Do you feel the need to explain yourself before you even say anything, or just be like, guys, just set the record straight, or whatever the case may be, in the confidence levels in between you and the business?
Exactly. I think, look, initially people were, just very supportive. So would I say business was affected negatively? No, actually quite the contrary. Because,
really?
Yes, because, now there is like an interest. And I think, Caster being the person that she is, there were a lot of corporates, government, just ordinary people on the street who are big followers and big fans that just wanted to get behind her. And they wanted to know, how do we do that? So that was really incredible, I think, in the first couple of years, is that they knew that, we were going to fight. And I think it really did help that, she's always had the persona that she's had, which is a very genuine one. So everybody really just wanted to work with us. I think where we started to see a little bit of a maybe a slightly less positive impact. This is me being like so politically correct.
And that's on management.
Love it.
Just like, Watch my words.
Watch your words. So, I think, I would say probably just before lockdown is probably when things started going a little, a lot drier. So now you have, clients that you've worked with for years. And, suddenly for them, it doesn't make sense, to be working with or backing somebody that is not actually on the track. So even if your contract is not a performance contract, they still want you to be relevant and in the news for the right reasons. So I think that's where we started to see a little bit of a challenge, I think, just pre-lockdown. And then the conversation, that I started to have with Caster was a very different one, which is to say legacy projects. That's what we're going to do. For so long, people have said to us, when are you doing a book? When are you doing a movie? When are you doing this? And the timing was never right. We felt like the timing was never right. But this time, I said to her, hey, listen, this actually works to our advantage. We are locked into our houses. There's like absolutely nothing that we can do. We need to actually start working on these legacy projects and, making sure that we tell your story and that you are in charge of that narrative. And so it made sense for us to do that. And I think, the more that we started to have these conversations specifically with clients, the more they got excited because then they realized, no, there is actually an ongoing plan, and they wanted to get behind that as well. So that I think was really amazing. And I mean, the process of writing Caster's book took us about a year and a half.
Okay.
During lockdown, it was great.
Take us through that, because I mean now it's and you see that we everything that you're saying brings forth the reason why you need management, right? Because in those challenging times, it was challenging at first, and now it's getting even more challenging. Now we are home, we're locked away, and the dynamics have changed. The dynamics has changed so much.
We're fighting the IAAF still,
and you're still fighting the IAAF,
which requires money. As well. We're
not really making that much money right now from a business perspective. So now we have to change the strategy.
Yeah.
Right. And I always ask this question, and if I didn't ask you at the beginning, do you think that there is, what are your thoughts on having management? Like, do you think that it is absolutely imperative to have a manager, whether you're a sports star, musician, personality?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I think that the issue, though, and I don't mean to take anything away from anybody, is that people's idea of what a manager does differs.
Yeah.
But I do think that a manager is definitely crucial. I look at, both Caster and Carol, and, it's important because remember, they are brilliant at what they do. So they will show up. Caster will be the athlete that she is. She'll be the world-class athlete she is. Carol will be the world-class presenter that she is. But I think the business, the business that needs to happen behind the scenes is really not something that, people in that position should be bothered with. So that then becomes the manager's role, to say, hey, this is the direction that we're taking. Are you comfortable with this? Is there anything else that I've left out that you might kind of,
that's the strategy, right?
That's the strategy.
So now you come and you say, okay, we're going to do legacy projects.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is the plan going forward. And then let's see how we action it. So it takes you guys a year and a half to write this book, which is incredible. And take us through that journey, like of how you're now executing this vision that you had, that not even the athlete herself could have had for herself.
Right. And it was actually quite a funny conversation to have, because she was like, I don't want to do this, not now, let's wait. And I'm like, we're not waiting. I'm like, we're not waiting, we're doing this. I was like, I'm going to find an amazing writer. I'm going to find like a good publishing, a publishing house that we're going to work with, and everything's going to be like international because you're global, baby. You know what I mean? And so that process itself, like, I mean, just in terms of finding like a writer that you want to work with, it is such an intricate, thing to do, because you're learning on the job. I've never written a book before. I've never worked for a publishing house. I don't know the first thing about it. But if somebody asked me to do it again, I can do it now.
Yes.
And I can easily call myself an expert now.
Yes.
Because, we went through so much. We interviewed writers. We had a look at a couple of writers that we had shortlisted to say, okay, these are the people that we want to work with.
Okay, wait. So I've never written a book before as a manager with any of my talents, and this is very interesting to me. So please just take us through the process. So you said you select right from the beginning. Obviously, you guys come up with the idea, and then from there, is it on you to find the writer, the publisher, and
you need to
the
find
team?
a literary agent, and I was very, very blessed. I actually have been so blessed to be mentored by Trevor Noah's manager, Nom Alagem.
Oh, wow, okay.
And he was very instrumental, in this entire process of, putting together these legacy projects, which was really amazing. But yeah, one of the most important things to do is also to find a literary agent.
Okay.
This is somebody who, knows the ins and outs of the publishing world. They will tell you what works. They will help you in terms of finding the right
This
fit.
is local or international?
International.
International.
Yeah,
Literally.
international. Okay. That person will find you the right deals, like even just in terms of the publishing houses that you have options to work with. That person will be able to give you a short list and say, these are the people that I think we should consider. And then what then goes into it is that you do like a short little, I wouldn't call it a blurb, but it's almost like a miniature version. So you do like a little overview of what the story is going to be about and what it's going to focus on. And that's actually what goes out to the publishing houses.
Okay.
And then they obviously look at that and they either get excited or they go, ugh, we'll pass, And I think in our case, it was really amazing because everybody was saying, hell yeah, we've been waiting for this.
Yeah.
So the response was incredible.
Okay.
And overwhelmingly so. So then you're sitting with, let's say, for instance, 5 publishing houses in the UK, 5 in the US, maybe, 10 in SA. Then you've got to go through, basically profiles and everything. And then they have to pitch.
Okay, so they pitch to you now.
They pitch.
So you've done your part. Now it's for them to come back and say, this is...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I think that's really nice. That's really the fun stuff because then you're able to see the kinds of books that they've actually put out before. They give you a strategy. You go with the one that aligns with you the most. And then once you've done that, that's when you go now into the process of finding, writers, and that also is quite an involved process because you initially are doing it, just off of a profile. Then it has to move into the next phase where you're actually getting onto the phone and you're doing it on Zoom. And, you're trying to actually get to know the person's personality because that's also very important because essentially the writer spends a lot of time with your athlete. So it has to be somebody that I think also has an understanding, even if they've never met before. The person needs to have an understanding of, Caster's background, where she comes from. That's also very important. Once we had done the magic,
there has to be that synergy.
Absolutely,
with
so
the writer.
important.
Yeah.
So
but then
important.
what happens like from cultural differences?
Luckily for us, the writer that we actually went with was from originally born in Mexico.
Okay.
So, we laugh because one of the other writers that we, were considering, she was a white American lady. And, her interpretation, or rather her understanding of what Caster meant by I come from the village was imikuku.
Yes,
you understand?
Yes.
So, I think it was
she
at that
Googled.
point. Yeah, she Googled and she was like, and even when she was like writing her little piece, she was like, oh yeah, she grew up in, these tin roof houses. And I was like, there are no tin roof houses in the village. We don't have tin roof houses in the village. Yeah. So you look at things like that and you're like, okay, maybe this will work, maybe this won't work. So it made sense to go with the writer that we went with because she was from Mexico. She knows what it's like to come from a township type setup in their context, which was really great. And I think, from the minute that we met her, we loved her instantly. Our energies were so aligned. Her vibe was amazing. And you won't believe, but we've actually become pretty, very close, the three of us. Like we've become
really
like sisters. Yeah. So that friendship is still ongoing and very strong. And if there's ever sequels to the book, I know, she's definitely somebody that we would consider again. Yeah, so
Okay, so we actually have the book with us.
Yay,
Let me pass it over to you.
I'm so proud of this work. I'm really
proud of you.
this
So
work.
this is what you're carrying. This is your legacy project.
This is my legacy project.
How's
with
it going?
It's going very well. So in SA, so this, because people always ask like why the two different covers, the same book. This is the UK and South African cover because this is what works with
this
their
is what
markets.
we know.
This is what you guys
Yeah.
know. And then for the US, they preferred a hard cover, which I think also pretty much works. It's very sophisticated.
Yeah, it's very sophisticated.
It's
I'm more
giving-
this girl. I don't know if I'm then
I'm also more this girl.
I'm more this girl. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would gravitate towards buying that
Yeah.
book versus.
I'd buy both. This would be my travel copy.
Okay.
So like, you know, when you're at the beach and you're
Yes,
reading,
yes.
you know, in case, you know, yeah, you don't want to, you get water on it, you don't care.
Yes.
This one is
at
like
home.
collector's
Yes.
item. Yeah. So we're very proud of this. It took about a year and a half, I think. And then, we eventually released it last year in October on the 31st. And then, very amazing. We embarked on a tour. You know, a PR tour to go and promo the book, which was absolutely amazing. We were on the Gayle King show, the breakfast
Wow.
show. We were on Sky News, BBC. It was just absolutely incredible. What a blessed trip. She spoke at Harvard. She spoke at the Oxford Union. Just really well supported, you know, and the book has been doing quite well. I think we sat at #1 in South Africa for a couple of weeks.
That is incredible.
Yeah, and I think we're still, I'm not too sure what the numbers are like now, but could possibly still be leading. Here we were hoping for like a bestseller, and it's so like interesting how it actually works, because in order for you to get a bestseller, there are people like Trevor Noah that when they drop, they instantly, you know, are a bestseller. But I think there are some books that will eventually get there, but like over time.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're happy
Transcends
with
time. That's the thing about literature. To transcend,
for sure.
goes on for forever.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because you can
So-
also have seen books come back
Yes.
as well, and then go
Yes.
hit the #1 spots
Yeah.
and become bestsellers.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you and the work that you have
Thank
done.
you. And we dropped sorry, I forgot to mention that we also dropped the Young Readers Edition. So this is the adult version, and then we've got a Young Readers Edition, which is typically for children who are between age groups, I would say 12 and let's say 16. Yeah, so there the language is, you know, a lot less extreme.
It accommodates.
Yes, because she pours her heart out here, hey?
Really?
She pours her heart out, which is just so amazing. I love that as well, because for so long, she, you know, chose to talk on the track.
Yeah.
So every race would be, you know, would be her way of responding to the haters. But in this book, she speaks very candidly. And so that's why it was important to have a Young Readers Edition where it's like a little bit more contained.
I'm trying to, even as you're speaking, I'm trying to see in a day where everything fits in, you know, and how you actually break everything down. And I mean, I think this is the true definition of that. This is more than management. You know, it goes really beyond that. And honestly, the realest reason why I started a platform like this was to educate us on that it takes more than just sitting in front of a computer and answering calls or whatever the case may be to be a manager, you know. And the work that you've done with Caster is absolutely incredible, as well as with Carol. And I am so proud of you. I'm so inspired by the work that you guys are doing, and I think many of us are. And now that we know your story from this perspective, we understand that it's layered. You know, there's so much more that goes into what we do, what you're doing, and it's incredible work.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. You know, as managers, we're obviously always the people that are behind the scenes. So when you gave me a call, I said, oh, no, you know, but this has been absolutely amazing. And I think it's really important for us to be able to have platforms like this where, you know, we can share information, we can share knowledge, we can educate, you know, because there's always a young girl, you know, a young boy, you know, looking to get in and not really knowing, you know, the ins and outs of it. And I just, you know, for me, if anything, anything at all, I just really hope that my message today was one of possibility and, courage and, being bold enough to actually go into the space that you want to and truly owning it, because whatever it is that you bring, it is definitely going to be magic. We are all born with something unique and special. We all have something incredible to offer. And, when we talk about creating legacies, I think we think it's like this big thing that's unattainable. That is so incorrect.
One day at a time.
It is. And that's what we're doing here, as we are bending and flexing and bobbing and weaving, through the day to day, we are learning. And that's why I'm proud of you as well.
Thank you so
Sky's
much.
the limit. It's not even the limit.
No, it's not. So we've learned recently. They tried to limit us, but now we know that there's no limit. All right, guys, thank you so much. That wraps up today's episode. I'm so excited to have had this conversation with Becky. Thank you for coming to my home and for sharing your knowledge with us and teaching us. And we are able to pass it on to the younger generation's future managers and anyone like that who could learn from this platform. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And we will see you in season 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes, count me in.
Perfect.
Yes.